Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies, and the weirdest matchup between Duke and Carolina in this rivalry finally happened at Cameron Indoor Stadium with no fans. Although I do think it was somewhat predictable in that we expected not a lot between these two teams. They ended up producing a pretty entertaining game.
Yeah, like I get that we're harsh on them because we haven't seen them live up to their normal standards or whatever, but I mean, the game
It was
itself
fine. It was like it's one of these things that kind of cracks me up. It's like if you like college basketball, if you like Duke and Carolina and you're into the rivalry, if you've got larger thoughts on you might not be into this because of everything else that's going on in this, in the pandemic and things like that, I totally understand where you're coming from. But if you need ranked opponents to make this an entertaining game for you, like, no. I question whether or not you actually care about the rivalry or not. I also think too, as it relates to these two games, it almost kind of like takes away from the fact that in a lot of these matchups between Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams, Carolina's not been ranked in a lot of these games either, I mean, we go back to last year, they produced a pretty entertaining game, and Carolina wasn't really much in terms of their record or rank. So I expected at least something entertaining because both these teams are going to care about this game one way or the other, even without fans.
Yeah, I think it was the lack of fans part that really kind of threw me for a loop too,
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
It's like you knew it was coming, you knew it would be weird, but then you see it and you just see this game that has always had so much more significance than others. And Coach K talked about it on Thursday. You have a buzz when you walk into the arena, blah, blah, blah. You don't have that. It's just gone in this game. There's nothing. It was pretty wild, honestly. And it was like, wait, you just kept waiting for the real version of it to start. Even that's, not going to happen for quite some time, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen for quite some time. All right, so the actual game itself. I was of the opinion that North Carolina was the better team in this game, right down to the three-point shooting. They also got what they needed inside. It's just that free throw shooting really kept Duke in this game. It wasn't until down the stretch where North Carolina was actually able to make their free throws, including Leaky Black there at the end with some crucial free throws. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading this, but I just felt like Carolina, as I thought going into the game, was a better matchup against Duke. I think that kind of played out, especially with the three-point shooting coming into play. And then once they settled in on free throw shooting, it was fine.
Yeah, that and turnovers, obviously.
Well, Carolina, it's funny. Carolina's going to...
Yeah.
Carolina's been turning the ball over throughout the season. I think they had 16 turnovers in this game. What's interesting though is that Duke wasn't really able to turn those turnovers into points. So points on turnover tonight were not great for Duke.
No, and Carolina had 28 points off of fewer Duke turnovers, which is insane. I think it's 28 or 15. And so they make you pay for every single one of those, and Duke just couldn't do the same thing the other way around. But still, I think, that did help a little bit. Every time it seemed like Carolina was about to pull away, they'd get a little sloppy for a little bit. Duke would manage to chip away at it, and then Carolina would just have another response. Carolina just always had a response, seemingly.
Yeah. No, Carolina always had a response. All right, so going forward, it's pretty obvious that Duke's not going to make the NCAA tournament. What's that?
It would take a lot.
It's going to take a lot. It might take winning the ACC tournament at this point, if they can do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's another conversation you and I are going to have about the ACC tournament and just how many teams are going to participate in that. Carolina, on the other hand, they don't really get much out of the win against Duke. I mean, this is not a good win per se, given Duke's record. So I am. Yeah. But it's yet another win. You keep banking wins, you're at least going to put yourself in the position to be looked at for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and I don't know where Duke is in net anyway, but that's their best Ken Pom win of the year, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's true.
They'll I was going to say, it would have been either team's best Ken Pom win. And other than the start of the game for Duke, you could definitely tell that Duke understood what was kind of on the line here. They tried. It's just they didn't have an answer for those big guys. That's something that they don't have an answer to. It got Matthew Hurt into foul trouble, and those guys just did whatever they wanted, honestly.
Yeah, and then when Matthew Hurt, who's been Duke's best player down the stretch here, fouls out, I mean, you're also going to be impacted with the way the game's going to play out. So Duke, it's it's going to be a forgettable season for Duke. There's going to be a lot of post-mortem on this season when it's all said and done. How much of the factor was the pandemic? How much of a factor was not having a crowd at Cameron Indoor Stadium? You got to imagine that things maybe turn out a little bit different if this was a full Cameron Indoor Stadium with what you would expect. But then again, I've seen Carolina teams go into that building and come out with wins. So it's really not like a given just because it's a home game that Duke wins these contests.
I think it's less about the fans for the opponent and more about what it means to Duke. And I think that's what Duke's been missing some too. Just in general, not just in this game, but certainly in general, is just having that kind of, I mean, it's cheesy, and I know people don't like the crazies, and I get it. I really do. But at the same time, I think that they can make a difference in some games. They don't always make as big a difference as you would think, but they can sort of in those moments. This team could use kind of somebody in their corner, an entity in their corner that's outside of them. They need that, and they haven't had it this year, and I think they could have really used it in this game for sure, and in plenty of others.
Yeah, look, if the game was at least entertaining the way it played out, I would imagine that the crowd and the Cameron Crazies going nuts and everything else like that would have added to what would have been an entertaining contest in the long run. Meanwhile, at Chapel Hill, I don't know if you've seen the footage or not yet, Lauren, but I guess college students are doing college student things and they're going out to Franklin Street after beating a Duke team.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, a couple things about that. So if your issue is that what the hell are you doing going on Franklin Street to burn stuff beating that particular Duke team? My argument to that is, well, you're only on campus for so long as a college student, and you're going to take your victories over Duke when you can, right? I mean, it's a very precious amount of time that you're on campus. So if this is your opportunity to go out there and party, well, they're going to go out and do it. And then there's the other aspect of it. Like, oh, well, I mean, how could you do this in the middle of a pandemic? Have you been paying attention to college students as of late? And I'm not quite sure I'm really going to put the onus on 18 to 21-year-olds when grown adults can't really be held to the same degree. I don't know. I just think it's funny that we do this thing on social media where we want to shame college students for doing college student things, even in the middle of a pandemic.
I should just find a screen grab of a packed Franklin Street and write # reopen the schools and just see. I mean, just saying, it's part of consequence of things like that,
Right. Yeah. You reopen the schools, and next thing you know, people are out there getting their party on. I get it. I get it. That's the thing. I get it. I mean, is it a good look? No. But do I get it?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. So I find it amusing that, people who are of my vintage, approaching 42 can sit here with, clear-eyed adult opinions of, oh, how could you do such a thing? Nah, I remember how I was in college. Just like, Lauren, I know you remember how you were in college. These are things that were going to happen. No matter the amount of people saying, don't do this now, kids, don't do this. No, they're going to do it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And probably the don't do it will make you want to do it even more, to be fair.
Yeah, what happens when you tell 18, 19, 20-year-old people to not do something? Yeah, that's usually how it works out. Then again, if you tell adults not to do something like, I don't know, put a mask on, what's the reaction for that? You can't tell them what to do. Yeah, exactly. Evidently, people have a problem with that too. Anyway, any other thoughts before we wrap up on the Panic Room?
No, I mean, it delivered a close game yet again, and one that I think was better played than some give it credit for. I think it's just because we look at both of these teams and we know they're not vintage versions of themselves. But I think it's fair to say that North Carolina's had its questionable moments, but I know that the Deadspin piece came out not that long ago that was sort of like the NCAA needs Kentucky, Duke, and UNC to be better. I don't know that I think it's a little unfair to lump them into that group. I'm just going to throw that out there. They're not terrible. They're probably not going to win the tournament, but they're not terrible. I think they're a little bit of a step above those two, in my opinion. And I think Duke even is a step above what we've seen out of Kentucky.
Yeah, as far as the actual game is concerned, this game is like pizza, even if it's bad.
That's true. Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if it's bad, I mean, you're still going to have it, right? I mean, who says no? So in this particular case, it was fine. It actually entertained, even though there was no rank between the two. As far as Carolina's concerned, we kind of talked about Duke going forward. With Carolina going forward, I am wary of trying to apply too much to the overall narrative of a season. We've talked about this before. We actually talked about this after Carolina lost to Clemson last week, where they took a step back, and we have to look at these things on an individual basis. And I'm gonna hold to what we talked about the last time. I'm just gonna chalk this game up to Carolina having a matchup advantage against Duke tonight, and ended up making their free throws down the stretch to make a difference. I'm not going to try to make some larger point about how Carolina's been kind of trending upward, because with no fans in buildings, teams getting up for Carolina in the grand scheme of things, they could be set up for yet another stumble down the stretch. I like what I've seen out of Carolina down the line. It's been great to see guys like Caleb Love have the kind of game he had tonight, especially from his overall offensive performance. But this is more of a game-to-game basis like we've talked about in the past.
Yeah, not everything has to mean something beyond that particular game. I mean, we're already doing postmortems in the Duke season, like you said, and it's like, I mean, we don't know what the end result's going to be, really. Like, we don't know how this is all going to end up for either one. And I think UNC is probably a little more well aware even than Duke of, like, the precarity of being good in college basketball here in the last couple of years, especially for UNC. It's like anytime it seems like, ooh, we're getting this thing together, it's like, oh, there it goes again. It just disappeared. So.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. Alongside Lowe and Brownlow, I'm Joe Ovies. I guess we have another one of these matchups to go at the end of the season, and we're about a month away from what's supposed to be the ACC tournament. We're also about a month away from, I don't know, do we celebrate an anniversary of being sent home from Greensboro some way, somehow? How do we do that?
The most depressing anniversary, isn't it? Oh my God.
What do you get for an anniversary in that regard, right?
God, I don't know.
I think the first anniversary is paper.
So like a mask? I don't know.
I like where your head's at. We'll see y'all later in the week.